Welcome to Know Your Balls podcast, a podcast about everything sports presented by Latinique Media. I'm your host, Avi Carr-Gloth. Joined with me is my co-host, Robbie Williams. Robbie, it's good to see you. It's good to get this podcast started with you, my man.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. I'm really excited.
Well,
Second
Robbie,
podcast ever, third podcast ever.
Hey, we all gotta start somewhere, I guess. I'm excited to get this going with you, and I'm excited to talk sports with you. We got a lot going on. Obviously, the Super Bowl happened. In addition to that, we have the NFL draft coming up. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to have surgery. What's that going to look like moving forward? Plus, the NBA has a lot of COVID situations going on. A while ago, there was a saga with Kevin Durant that we'll get into. And of course, the biggest recent news is that J.J. Watt was released by the Houston Texans. We'll talk about where he might end up later on. But first, Robbie, the big one that we got to start off with is the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 31-9 thorough domination over the defending Kansas City Chiefs, the defending champs. I mean, this was I was really hoping this was going to be a close game, but ended up getting ugly really fast, Robbie.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I was ever more entertained by the halftime show than the game, to be honest. There really wasn't a game. It was just Tom Brady being Tom Brady again for the seventh time. I watched the second half just in hopes that things were going to change, but I knew after watching that first half, I was like, I just don't see it happening. And sure enough, I mean, they didn't even put up 10 points. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely in shock at how like Patrick Mahomes gave it his all. I've never seen somebody run around and try to make plays and do their best to throw the ball while, almost completely on the ground, and somehow the ball just shoots out of his hand like a laser and, surprises his wide receiver and hits him in the face. I can't remember who it was. Hit him right in the face in the end zone or
yeah, he had some of the
plays.
he had some of the best incomplete passes I've ever seen in my life. Like I I guess that's the best way of putting it. But he was running around for his life. That Tampa Bay pass rush was all over him. Obviously, the Kansas City offensive line was missing a couple of important players like Eric Fisher. But I mean, I saw this game going a lot of different ways, and I still didn't see it going this way. The game was really won and lost at the line of scrimmage. Tom Brady, I mean, I really don't have much to think of an instance where he was really under pressure. And you look at Mahomes, I've never seen Mahomes run for his life like that. I mean, uh, and at 43 years old, I mean, Tom Brady looks like he could play another 3 years minimum. I mean, he looks like he could still ball.
Yeah, he did not hesitate at the end of that game to say we're coming back next year. Which I don't know why he would. I mean, after putting a whooping on somebody like that in the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs are no pushover, and they made him look like the Lions. I mean, I think it was a similar score. I think they beat the Lions like 47 to like 3 or 6 or something.
Well, that's a little bit worse, but
yeah.
But to do it against Mahomes they didn't even score a touchdown. Like I had, if you would have told me that before the game, I simply wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe my ears. And I mean, Andy Reid, who is he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greatest offensive minds in football, and he not even he could overcome Tampa Bay's defense, and it became their defense that really carried them. I know Tom Brady's going to get a lot of the headlines, and he should get a lot of the credit. But I mean, look at that Tampa Bay team. They got Devin White in the linebacker position. They have Levante David. Was it Shaquem Griffin? I think is that it might be that's the guy from the Seahawks, I think. Or
Yeah,
Shaquille Barrett. Shaquille Barrett.
Yes.
Shaquille Barrett. Yeah. And then Antoine Winfield Jr., Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy Bunting. They have so many players that can make plays, and say what you want about them not being the favorite, because Kansas City is still the favorite to win the title next year. As long as they got their group where they are now, Tampa Bay isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Oh, absolutely not. No. But speaking of them being the favorite, they were favored by 3 points going into the Super Bowl. And my dad actually told me a really good story. He had somebody try to, I can't remember what it was exactly. They tried to bet him that they wanted to take the Bucs, and my dad was convinced that the Bucs were going to win. And he said, "You know what? I'll give you like 7 points on Kansas City." And the guy was like, "Well, for that, well, then I'll just take, then I'll just take Kansas City instead of, you taking Kansas City." And Kansas City straight up, right? And
Yeah.
of course, Kansas City gets whooped. And my dad texted him back later. He's like, "I could have given you 21 points, and you still would have won if you had just taken the
Yeah.
Bucs instead." So it
Given
was really funny. That guy was not very happy.
3 touchdown underdogs, and they still wouldn't have covered, losing by 22 points. You're right though about the halftime show. Like that was definitely the first time in a while I was more entertained by the halftime show than the Super Bowl game. Not to say that the weekend had like the best performance ever, but I would say he had one of the better performances in recent years. And I think especially with COVID, he was able to make the best of the situation. So that was an interesting component to the Super Bowl.
Oh, definitely. I thought it was pretty crazy how fast he got from that stage that's up like in the stands down onto the
Yeah.
field. When they moved down to the field, I was like, how did he do it? That's
How do you
bull
do
crap.
that?
They had a double or something because that was way too quick and he's not out of breath. Like he had to sprint. I don't get it.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought in my head. I know he ended up on the field with like all those bandaged guys who are all wearing the same outfit. So I don't
That
know,
I didn't
maybe
get.
yeah,
That was the only thing I was like, I guess because they have to wear masks, so they were like, let's make it artsy. But
I think also I think
beyond that, I couldn't
also
see what they were doing.
yeah, I'm not like the biggest Weekend fan, but I think he had like some kind of thing with his face. Like I don't know, and he had it bandaged up at one point. And
Uh,
I think that's like kind of something that's on his brand. I don't know the specific story behind it, but yeah, I think maybe one of those guys took off the bandages for a second, like was that a little stunt double maybe? I don't know. But it was definitely
maybe.
he definitely took advantage of what he was given.
Yeah, I seriously want to see a backstage replay of somebody had to have been following him with a camera while he was sprinting down the steps there onto the field. Because I mean, all of a sudden he popped up on the camera, and I was like, I totally thought they were gonna zone out for another 10 minutes and do some special effects on the field or something. All of a sudden, boom, there he is. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. So, anyways, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after winning 3 road playoff games, uh, they got to play at home in the Super Bowl. No team had ever done that. Like you get to just play on your own home field, and I definitely think that was a big advantage for them, especially because Kansas City they couldn't get to Tampa until like what 2 days before the game. So that was a definite advantage, I believe. And I'm wondering, Robbie, what you think of when they look back on this Super Bowl, how much that you think COVID played into the advantages for Tampa Bay.
COVID. I definitely think it's a huge advantage to sleep in your own bed the night before the Super Bowl. You know, having to go and stay on the road and stay in a hotel, it's you don't really totally feel cozy in a hotel bed as much as you do in your own bed. Um, I think they should make a rule further on down the line that if you do get to play a Super Bowl in your hometown, you have to travel 30 minutes outside of the town, stay in a hotel, and then commute back into just to make things a little bit more even.
Mhm.
Might be a little extreme, but I just don't want to see a lopsided Super Bowl like that again. But as far as COVID, you got me there. I don't understand. Was there anybody who was out of the game because of COVID that I'm
I
not
don't th-
remembering right now?
I don't think so. I know Jamarcus Robinson, wide receiver for the Chiefs, was like questionable, but I think he did end up playing. But again, I don't think it really would have mattered because it was all Tampa Bay really from the start. Um,
Yeah,
so I know Tampa Bay did not get that goal line touchdown. I think it was like early in the first half that Kansas City had a goal line stand, but after that it was really all Tampa Bay. So
yeah, that was the
congrats.
most interesting point of the game, honestly.
Yeah, and that was early in the first half, so it tells you about how the rest of the game went. So congrats to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went on a boat parade afterwards, which I guess is, if this was a cold place, then I don't really see a parade happening. But since it's Florida, and since it's Tampa Bay and it's nice weather and all that. They were able to be on the boats and they were able to celebrate. Obviously, the clip going viral, Tom Brady throwing the Vince Lombardi trophy onto another boat, and then also, you know, drunk Tom Brady he also coming out of the gate. If when he threw that trophy, when I saw that, I was like, oh no, like you. That's the kind of guy who's won 7 Super Bowls. Like, if this one falls, he's got a couple more, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, who cares? Oh man, I'm
Yeah,
just glad he made it. That would have been hilarious. If it would have just sunk straight to the bottom, it would have just been gone. I mean, they
yeah.
would have had to get a search and rescue team out there for the Lombardi Trophy.
Someone would have jumped in the water. Somebody would have gotten in there and pulled it out of the water and held it up, and that would have been like one of the iconic images of the celebration. And there were so many different clips that were out there that showed the instance from all these different angles, from the boat that Brady was throwing, from the boat that was catching it to farther away. Like there was angles everywhere, and so I mean, I've never seen a boat parade, a Super Bowl parade like the one that we saw in Tampa. And then again, the tweet that Tom Brady had, just a little avocado tequila or something like that, like. And he was like very drunk. A lot of people really appreciate that because it almost like humanized this walking legend.
I think they gave. I think there was a double in there. I don't think he was really drinking. I think they were like, we have to make him seem like a human being. So we got to get somebody in here with some sunglasses on, feed him a few drinks, and I mean, did you see him packing up, like after the game? Not during the the parade, but right after the
Yes.
Super Bowl, he was like the first person packing his bag, and I'm like, this is why I didn't want you to win another Super Bowl. You don't even appreciate it. You're just out here. Oh, my dog's invading our podcast. Sorry.
That's all good. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I saw that like I think it was Levante David or one of the players on defense was like, look at this guy." Like they showed him like taking his stuff and just and just wrapping it up. He's all like he's ready to pack it in, ready for next season already. Like he's a
Yeah.
machine.
No, I think he went back to practice like that night. He didn't even go home and go to bed. He just went home. He just sits in his house in his sleep, throwing a ball at the ceiling, like like a kid pondering his first date or something. Just he never stops in my mind.
Uh I got one more. I got one more thought, and then we can move on to this. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Robbie. Obviously, the question that a big question that's gonna happen moving forward is how does this Super Bowl now change how people look at the Patriots dynasty? Because one of the biggest debates in sports, one of the biggest, maybe the biggest debate in football over the last 2 decades is who gets more credit for the Patriots dynasty? Is it Brady or is it Belichick? And I'm wondering how you think this Super Bowl is going to frame or change that debate at all, if you think it will be changed.
I think that Tom Brady went to a very good team with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, his receiving options are amazing. Granted, he brought some people with him, and the team was more solidified later in the season. But he's on a great team. He won that Super Bowl with an amazing team, and I think every Super Bowl he won with the New England Patriots was an amazing team. He's kind of like, how do I put this? Like somebody driving a Ferrari. You look really cool driving the Ferrari, and the Ferrari's, awesome and you're going really fast and everything, but you didn't build the Ferrari. You're just driving the car. You might be really good at driving it and you might be able to drive it very fast, but I think you got to give the car some credit um, for when you're going 200 miles an hour down the road or something. Um, I don't think him winning the Super Bowl really takes away from Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick, is rebuilding a team for the first time in 20 years. So give him a year and see what he does. I don't quote me on that. I wouldn't put money on it. I just said I wouldn't be surprised if I saw it. I wouldn't be like, holy crap, no way. I'd be like, this is a good storyline. I could dig it.
Well, those are strong words of support for Bill Belichick for sure, and I appreciate the car analogy. Uh, so we'll move on. Although first we'll take a quick break and we'll hear from a word from our sponsor.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt your scheduled podcast, but we are just popping in to thank today's sponsor, La Tonique Shop. Head over to www.latonique.news/shop today and check out our shopping page. We have an awesome selection of high-end apparel and accessories that you can purchase to support your favorite news site. We have everything from premium Champion sweatshirts, tees, tank tops, joggers, dad hats, and more. Once again, head over to www.latonique.news/shop to select quality items right from our site. La Tonique Shop offers tons of styles and colors and has every size that you could need. Just add items to your cart and check out on the website. It's honestly so easy. Once again, thank you to La Tonique Shop for sponsoring today's episode, and now back to your scheduled podcast.
All right, back, and we're talking about the NFL again, and the NFL draft will be upon us sooner rather than later, Robbie. I know you as a Detroit Lions fan are very much looking forward to that happening. But before that, the number one overall pick in the draft belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars and new head coach Urban Meyer. And everyone's expecting them to draft this guy. His name is Trevor Lawrence, and he played quarterback at Clemson. Had a pretty good collegiate career there, I guess. However, now he's undergoing some surgery, and some people are questioning if that's going to affect his stock, although a lot of people are saying that he should still be ready for NFL training camp. What do you make of that situation?
It doesn't sound like it's anything too serious. Sounds like he'll be ready to play this coming NFL season. But personally, I'm just not a big believer in a team that has a lot of problems, putting all their hopes on a quarterback in the first round. I mean, I think the Jets and the Jaguars are the most notorious for this. The Browns used to be pretty notorious for it. It's where great quarterbacks go to die. You never stand a chance. To be honest, the Jacksonville Jaguars are so bad. I don't know much about that team and what they really need to draft. But I know Gardner Minshew got benched, but I like his pizzazz.
Yeah, he's definitely got a flair to him, and it seems to fit with the Jaguars. But when you got a guy who could headline your team and become the new face of the franchise, potentially be one of the faces of the league, he'll sell jerseys, he'll get tickets sold. I mean, this guy's box office, and he's got a lot of talent. The surgery is going to be on his non-throwing shoulder. He had his personal pro day that he threw at, and people seem to regard as a pretty good showing. But now he's expected to be number one to the Jaguars, and I know what you mean. Like, there's going to be a roster that's going to have to surround this guy, and Jacksonville definitely they got rid of a lot of their big pieces. It was just back in 2017 when they went 12-4, and they were a quarter away from going to the Super Bowl for the first time ever, and now here they are with the number one overall pick. Do you still think that Lawrence will go number one? Do you think this will affect his draft stock at all?
No, I think he's probably still going to go number one. Just because, like you said, jersey sales, marketing, and he could change the franchise around. It's not impossible. We've seen, personally, I think like Matt Stafford when he was drafted changed the Lions franchise around, even though they were an 0-16 team, the year before they drafted him. So don't get me wrong, they could change the course of the Jaguars' woes here, but I just personally I don't get too overhyped about it when we start talking about stuff like this, because I've just seen, I mean, how many years ago was it the Jets were all excited to get Sam Darnold, and this year they were talking about tanking for Trevor, and I was like, why even tank for him? You tried it before, it doesn't work. you got bigger issues to solve. So I don't think it's going to change his draft stock at all because, he is, who he is. He reminded me his performance in the semifinals, I think it was, for the college playoffs. It reminded me of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was trying everything he could do, moving around, and I mean, he looked as impressive as you can look, and still, not win, and and throwing complete passes and stuff. I mean, he was trying, as much as he could. I think he's still going to go number one. If he doesn't go number one, he's going number two.
Oh yeah.
So if I was him, I would be not worried about my bank account at all right now.
Oh yeah, I almost think back to about a year. It was a year ago when the Cincinnati Bengals took Joe Burrow number one overall, and that franchise was going through a reboot as well. And people viewed Burrow as the guy who could turn the franchise around. He just won the Heisman, just won the national title, and now they need to build a roster around him. But the first objective was getting a quarterback that they felt that they could move forward with. Now Jacksonville, I guess, is kind of taking that same approach. They're going to take the guy that they think could be the next big one, like Cincinnati thinks Joe Burrow could be, and then build that roster around him because their roster was picked clean. They got rid of Fournette. They traded Calais Campbell for like a 4th round pick or something like that. They trade a bunch of, even they're not great but good players. They traded them. They had a starting safety named Ronnie Harrison that they gave to the Browns for like a 6th round pick or something like that. So I mean, they really picked apart their roster, and now they're really gonna have to build from the ground up. So if Trevor Lawrence is that guy, then there's a bright future ahead for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Switching sports to the NBA, this happened a little while ago, but there was a game in which Kevin Durant, you may have heard of him, he plays for the Brooklyn Nets. He had to leave. He was originally going to be in a game, and then he wasn't because of contact tracing. But then the NBA said he could come in the game, so he came in the game, and then they said he couldn't come in the game anymore, so he had to get taken out of the game. And it was kind of like a yo-yo, and there was he was tweeting about that angrily, and he wasn't happy about the situation. I'm just curious what you think. This does not reflect well on the NBA or their COVID protocols.
No, I think if you got to make the decision one way or the other before the game starts, because I mean, once somebody's already out on the floor walking around talking to people with no mask on, I mean, you got to pull somebody if you think that they have, but you shouldn't have let them get out there in the first place. And to do this sort of flip-flopping thing just doesn't reflect very well. Like you said, it kind of looks like like they don't know what they're doing. Like they're just, and it definitely affects the flow of the game and game planning and how you're going to approach a game, whether or not you have a superstar like Kevin Durant out on the floor. It changes everything. So to be whipping somebody in and out of the game like that, I was very surprised that they did that.
Yeah, and the NBA has already, coming into the season, they already said that they're only releasing the first half of the schedule initially, that the second half of the season will be released at a later date. Still hasn't been released yet, although people expect it's going to happen, I guess, in the next couple weeks, because we're coming up on the end of that first half of the season, and I know the NBA was definitely trying to remain as flexible as possible, but there have already been, I don't know the exact number, but there have already been a number of games that have been postponed because of contact tracing. And I think at one point, the Washington Wizards, they went like 16 days without playing in a game. The Memphis Grizzlies, I believe, went over a week without playing in a game. And there are a lot of real competitive disadvantages. I know the Miami Heat were missing Jimmy Butler for a considerable amount of time, and that that's a team that was in the NBA Finals last year, missing their best players. So there's a lot that is still kind of a work in progress. I know the NBA tried to give themselves a little bit of wiggle room, but even so, it still feels like it's tightening on them a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what else to say about it because it's just you want to give everybody the best you know competitive advantage they can have. You don't want to disadvantage anybody, but you also got to do what you got to do. I would just say that just a little bit more consistency. I think is what everybody would like to make things as fair as possible. Versus like you said, you don't even know when the new schedule is coming out. Um, you got everybody up in the air wondering what's going on. Even in the middle of a game, you don't know if you're going to get pulled out in the middle of the game. That kind of gets in your head when you're playing. It gets you out of the zone. And especially missing 16 games. Or yeah, what you said they didn't miss 16 games. I'm saying it back wrong.
It was 16 days, I believe.
16
it was like
days. I couldn't get the games out of my head. But you know what I'm saying. To go that long without playing, you can practice. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. And that totally, puts you at a disadvantage being out of the swing of things and the pace of playing in a regular game.
One more question, then we'll move on. Do you think the NBA would consider doing a bubble again for the playoffs, where it's one site and everybody just comes there and just chills there until you're eliminated?
See, it'd be nice because then you don't have to deal with all this, as much, the contact tracing, canceling games and all that stuff. But then, I think it's better for the fans than it is for the players, because while you would like to keep your focus, at the same time, these are just regular people who like to enjoy themselves from time to time. And, I think maybe if they could figure out a way to do like a semi bubble where, people could figure out a way to bring their families in with them, or girlfriends or something, just to make it feel a little bit more homey, because realistically, you're not going around like crazy, when you're outside of a bubble, because we're still in a pandemic, you shouldn't be anyways. But I think it'd be a hard time getting the players to agree to a bubble in a non-playoff scenario. Just because, you got to think from the perspective of these guys who are playing on a team where you kind of know you're not going to the playoffs, and you're playing for a paycheck. You're playing to make yourself look better. You're playing for the love of the game, but at the same time, do you want to be stuck in a bubble? Losing games consistently because you're on a bad team. I don't know. Or maybe you could do it on like a team by team basis. Teams that are more competitive might have an invested interest in coming together as a team and saying, hey, you know what? Let's quarantine together so we don't, fuck up.
Hey, and it sounds like your dog isn't a fan of the idea either.
Yeah, you can hear him. I can't hear him too so well with the headphones on, but I just noticed he's sitting right behind me. I don't know what his deal is. He usually is just sleeping in the middle of the day. He must hear me talking and think I'm talking to somebody and think somebody's here.
Yeah, he's trying to get his thoughts in about the NBA bubbles.
Should I give him a cameo since we're already talking about him?
What's his name?
Rocky.
What's up, Rocky?
Sometimes I call him Rock a Flock of Flame. He also goes by Mr. Big Bone.
Mr. Big Bone.
And if he's being bad, I call him Big Dumb Fuck.
Well, I appreciate those nicknames. I have a couple of dogs, and maybe this will be a dog podcast. I don't know.
I'll get little dog jerseys for him. He'll be like like Lee Corso puts on the mascot heads. Whenever I make a prediction, I'll get Rocky to make the prediction.
Get a jersey on him. Yeah. Or like different bowls with different teams. We didn't really mention that with the Super Bowl, but I know there's like a bunch of different pets and animals that like pick like their Super Bowl winners based off of like which which thing they eat or which thing they go towards. You know what I'm talking
really?
about? Yeah,
I've not seen that. No.
I know there's one with like a baby. It was like he was like going towards a ball. Like there were two footballs, and one had a Chiefs logo and one had a Bucks logo, and it's like whichever one he picked up first, that's the pick or something like that. I don't know. There's a bunch of those. Yeah, those are always fun leading up to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I guess we start with the Super Bowl. We come back to the Super Bowl, but now Super Bowl's over. The biggest piece of NFL news now is J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's only the third person ever to do that. First ballot Hall of Famer the moment he's eligible. He's going to Canton. Just to list off a few of his accomplishments, he's been first team All-Pro 5 times. He's been a Pro Bowl 5 times. He led the NFL in sacks twice. For his career, he has 101 sacks, 172 tackles for loss. He's forced 25 fumbles. Last season, he played in all 16 games, which is a big deal. He's missed a significant chunk of games in recent memory. Last season, he finished with 5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, and he forced 2 fumbles. And I appreciated the way he went out, Robbie. He said it on a video. He made it clear that he didn't want to put in a press release or a statement. It really felt like his emotion was genuine for the city of Houston and for that fan base.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players, I respect for staying with a franchise. He's not like Ndamukong Suh where every time he can get some more money, he's hopping to the next place. He stuck around and doing it for the
Lions
fans.
beef there.
Yeah, no, he was a wasted draft pick. Just gave us some good times for a few years. I'll always thank him for giving Aaron Rodgers a concussion. But
oh boy. Well, J.J. Watt though, I mean, he meant a lot to that city, and Hurricane Harvey when that went down, obviously his foundation went viral, and there was tons of people, millions of dollars being poured into this foundation. He did a lot of good in that city, and I think that's not going to be forgotten anytime soon. He won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, so no matter where he goes next, that's going to be on his jersey, which I think is a really cool thing that the NFL does.
Yeah, yep. It's a good question. Where is he going to go next? I really don't know. I don't really have a good idea for that one. Because he's an amazing player, but like you said, he's had he played all 16 games this season, but he's had some problems with injuries, and he is getting older. So I feel like he's going to come with a bit of a price tag because he is J.J. Watt, but it's like, how much will a team want to pay that price tag knowing that, you might not even get him for a majority of those games that, you sign him up for?
Yeah, and with the Texans, he had 1 year left on his contract, but none of that money was guaranteed. So Houston cut him after he asked for it, and now he's a free agent. Like, there's no strings attached. Like, it's not like there's guaranteed money attached to him. He's on the market now, and someone could sign him like today, theoretically. And there's a lot of different betting favorites. I know a popular idea is for him to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers because they have his brothers there, which would be something else. Forget the fact that it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. To have 3 brothers on an NFL team, to have 2 brothers on an NFL team is something else. To have 3 brothers all on one team, that would be something. But I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and come home, JJ. Come on home. You can line up on the other side of the line from Myles Garrett. Are you kidding me? Like, JJ Watt and Myles Garrett on the edges. The Browns, they have cap space. Not a ton of cap space, but they're in the upper echelon of teams with cap space. They still have a quarterback on a rookie deal. Like, come on in, JJ. Like, come to the Browns. The Browns need another pass rusher. They could address it in the draft, but they could get JJ Watt lining up on the other side. I mean, imagine what a defensive line would look like for a second, Robbie. You got Myles Garrett on one end, you have JJ Watt on the other, Sheldon Richardson at defensive tackle. Larry Ogunjobi's not likely to come back, but still, that's a great defensive line. Like, one of the best, 5-3, off defensive lines in football. I think I know I'm a Browns fan, and I know this is a lot of wishful thinking, but it really makes sense. It does make a lot of sense for him to come to Cleveland.
Yeah, but I think so. I think you're right, because then he would also get to play against his brothers and have a little, instead of the whole, oh, we're all brothers and everything's fine. It's like, no, I'm going to kick your ass because we're brothers. Like,
yes,
I could see that happening. I think I'd like to see that storyline develop too, because he's the oldest, right?
yeah, he's the oldest brother, and he's going to want to beat his younger brother.
Exactly. No, he's not going to go play with his brothers. He's not going to.
Oh yeah, as an older brother myself, I want to beat my younger siblings every time I play them in anything, and I really hope that JJ feels the same way. But again, I do see a scenario in which he would go to the Steelers to play with his brothers, but that's literally the only thing they got going for them. Like, Pittsburgh's falling apart. Like, they're going to have some big changes this offseason and the off seasons to come. I think Cleveland is a great option. I think seeing him in Buffalo would be something crazy. Obviously, he's a Wisconsin guy. He went to Wisconsin. So if he went to the Packers, that'd be a big deal. I could definitely see that. Or, maybe he joins the defending Super Bowl champs, tries to get a ring with the Buccaneers. There are a lot of different places that he could end up. The
that
Titans
would make
even.
sense. That's where everybody who's on the verge of retirement goes. You just, you're starting to get old. You just go to Tampa Bay. They'll just be like the new future Hall of Fame team. If you're going to Canton one day, just make a stop in Tampa Bay, catch some, get some rays and a ring, and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's a defensive player, but 3 guys that Tom Brady personally recruited to go with him to Tampa Bay scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Leonard Fournette scored a touchdown. Gronk had 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown, he's a whole nother mess off the field, but he scored a touchdown. He was a great player for them in his role. Those are 3 guys that Brady brought to Tampa Bay. They don't come to Tampa Bay if Tom Brady's not there, and it worked out for them. So I definitely think seeing JJ Watt there, seeing that, it worked out for those guys, maybe I could pop over. So I definitely see that as a possibility. And I'm excited to see where he ends up, partially because I've like a horse in the race potentially, but also because that's a name. Like, JJ Watt is the kind of guy that, he may not be the defensive player of the year he once was 3 times, but that's a guy that changes a defense, and that's a guy that before every snap you need to know where he is. That could potentially change the contending landscape in the NFL.
Yeah, total game changer. And potential, total, bringing a certain culture to a roster with that, veteran attitude. I think that's huge that he's leaving Texas, and it'll be really exciting to see where he goes.
Real quick, how much does this affect Deshaun Watson? Because the Texans have been saying very publicly they're not going to trade him, but everyone's kind of leaving, and with JJ Watt being there for a decade, no longer there. I mean, your words say one thing, but actions say another. Where do you think this factors in with the Watson situation?
I mean, he already has made it abundantly clear that he does not want to play for the Houston Texans anymore. And it kind of blows my mind that they refuse to get rid of him just because, he doesn't want to play there. What kind of effort do you think you're going to get out of a guy when he, hates playing for you? You're going to get the bare minimum. He's not going to go out there and risk, he's not going to be throwing his body on every play. He doesn't want to go there. So I don't understand why they want to keep him. I get that he's an amazing player, but if he doesn't want to play for you, you gotta part ways and cut your losses. So I think this is probably gonna. I think they might change their mind going forward, just because I just don't. You have to accept that you're in a rebuilding mode at this point. And Deshaun Watson is not going to be your future franchise QB that you wanted him to be. So I don't know. I kind of hope he gets to go somewhere where he can enjoy himself a little bit more, because he's a great player. He's fun to watch.
something to keep in mind, with J.J. Watt moving on, I don't want to say it's the end of an era, but those Houston Texan teams that, would always win, would win the division, win maybe a playoff game, and then they'd bow out in the divisional round. Think of the talent they had. I mean, Deshaun Watson is technically still there, but you have Deshaun Watson, you have J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins. You had a lot of talent on the Houston Texans. Jadeveon Clowney, number 1 overall pick, was a good player for them. All that talent, and they never even made it to the AFC Championship game, which is just like it's just a shame. I mean, they had so much talent, and they never even got into the championship game. So the Texans still never been in the Super Bowl. One of the few teams in the cool club, along with the Jaguars, Browns, and Lions. But I mean, wow! I feel for those diehard Texans fans. They deserve better, and I hopefully better days are ahead.
Hopefully, yeah. It looks like it's going to be a while.
Indeed. So that's about all the time we have. We want to thank our sponsor once again. And please make sure you follow Latanique on our social media. We have a YouTube channel. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Connect with us on all those outlets. Don't forget to check out our website at www.latanique.news. Robbie, any closing thoughts before we sign off on our first Know Your Balls podcast?
I really thought about going on a I hate Tom Brady rant for a while today, but I really kept myself in because I know how much you like Tom Brady, so I didn't really want to stop on your toes. But I just have to say,
I'm not like a Tom Brady fanboy here. I mean, like I like him. It's not like I'm like falling over heels for him. If that's how you really feel about it, then feel free. Be my guest.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, fuck Tom Brady one time because Tom Brady, my first memory of a Super Bowl is Tom Brady winning his first Super Bowl. He's played in more than half the Super Bowls I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just sick of it. And, I just wanted to get that off my chest. My absolute hatred for Tom Brady has gone from like it went down a little bit when he dropped the ball in that Super Bowl against the Eagles.
The Eagles, yeah.
When he did that, it made me happy. I was like, he's human. I can live with him now. But now that he's won his 7th Super Bowl, it's like tenfold. I will root against Tom Brady in every game he plays in. If I saw Tom Brady playing shuffleboard, I would be screaming for him to lose because he just doesn't deserve any more wins anymore. I'm done with it. I'm over it. That's my piece. I'm over it. I just had to get that off my chest.
The rich get richer. That's the moral of the story. All right. Well, thank you, Robbie, and thank you everyone for listening to Know Your Balls podcast, and we'll see you next time.